In 1967, in Africa, the army is fighting against mercenary riots. The soldiers move fast in the forest to kill several enemies with shots and well-hidden mines. At the military base, the infirmary is full of men, but not all were injured in combat. Dozens of soldiers are sick with an unknown virus, and they've lost almost 50 people in just 2 days. Soon, a helicopter drops off officers William and Donald, who are wearing biological protective suits. They visit the infirmary to collect blood samples. Then the doctor shows the pile of bodies outside to look at the deformed faces caused by advanced stages of the disease. The pair promises to send a plane before leaving by helicopter. A few hours later, the people at the base see the plane approaching and celebrate because they think they're being rescued. However, the plane bombs the area, killing everyone there with a single explosion. 28 years later, military virologist Sam is at home bathing his dogs when he receives a call from William, who informs him that there's been a level 4 virus outbreak in Africa. The World Health Organization will send a team, but the U.S. Army wants Sam to be there first. Before leaving, he leaves his dogs with his ex-wife Robbie, a scientist who worked for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC. Robbie asks him to take some boxes with his things, but he gets offended when he realizes she's giving away all their photos. During the flight, Sam meets Major Salt, who has no experience with virus outbreaks. Sam tells him he needs to be ready to see some unique things, and Lieutenant Colonel Casey starts to describe the gross symptoms of this unknown virus. However, Salt finishes reciting the list of symptoms without being bothered. Soon they arrive at a small village in Zaire, where bodies are decorating the paths and stacked in cages to be burned. Inside a cabin, they find some survivors in terrible conditions, surrounded by even more bodies. Salt checks a bed because he hears a young boy crying and finds him sitting with his disfigured parents. The sight makes Salt freak out and vomit inside his biological protective suit, which makes him have difficulty breathing. Casey tries to stop him from removing his helmet, but it's too late. Salt removes it anyway and takes a deep breath. Sam now wants to isolate him, but the local doctor says it's okay because the virus is not airborne. After that, the doctor tells the team that they didn't arrive early enough because the village is dead. The virus kills in just 2 or 3 days and has a 100% mortality rate. If anyone infected try to leave, they must be dead in the forest and couldn't have reached the next village. Patient Zero was a young man who worked with a foreigner to build a road. And when he came back home, he was sick. After that guy drank from the well, the virus spread throughout the village. He died 2 hours after arriving and was incoherent the whole time, so they couldn't ask him how he got infected. The note mentions that the local healer is not sick, and the doctor explains that the man stayed in his cave for an entire week. This healer believes that the gods are angry because foreigners are destroying their land, so the virus is a punishment. During the flight home, Salt apologizes for his reaction, while Casey writes a report that they send immediately home. That night, Sam crashes a party to ask William to issue an alert. However, he refuses because he thinks the virus won't spread thanks to its high mortality rate. Meanwhile, outside the village, a monkey accidentally falls into a hunter's trap. Later, it's put in a cage and sent on a ship where the hunter shares his own food with it. The next day, Sam goes to get his dogs, and Robbie freaks out with him, since he arrived much later than he promised. She didn't dare steal the dogs, so she had to postpone her trip. They argue about their pets, and Sam decides to let her keep them, since they used to belong to both. After that, Sam and Casey go to the Military Research Institute and access the upper level. While there, changing, Key scolds Sam for not checking his biological protective suit, pointing to a tear in the sleeve before covering it with tape. Salt is already in the laboratory and has started most of the tests on the samples. Casey makes a joke about the virus called Motaba and throws a test tube at Sam, who panics to catch it. However, the tube is empty, and Casey reminds him to handle laboratory equipment carefully. When the tests are ready, the men watch the results in shock. The virus multiplied at an alarming rate, and in just 5 hours killed all the cells in the sample. William soon joins them and gives a sample of the virus he saw in 1967 for comparison. Later, William meets with Donald to see the results of the comparison tests. They confirm that the Motaba virus is the same thing they saw in Africa in 1967, which means it escaped the bombing. Donald tells William to lock up the virus and pull Casey out, since they should keep it secret. The next day, Sam runs to William's office to complain because he was assigned to a different case in Mexico. William insists that Motaba is contained, and they argue for a while, but the orders don't change. In private, he calls Robbie and tells her to request a virus alert from the CDC, but she explains that she can't make that request based on just his feelings. After much discussion, she hangs up on him. Later, Robbie ends up telling her superior about the virus anyway, but he also believes it's contained at an animal biotis facility in California. The infected monkey is kept in a cage. At night, a worker named Jimbo steals the monkey in his car and bribes the guard to buy his silence. In the morning, he's still driving, and the monkey spits in his face. Soon Jimbo arrives at a pet shop in Cedar Creek and tries to sell the monkey, which scratches the shop owner's arm when he grabs it. The monkey in the neighboring cage also steals the infected animal's banana. The shop owner is now furious and refuses to buy, so Jimbo decides to release the monkey in the forest. At night, he gets on a plane and starts feeling so sick that he loses his appetite. A brat wants to grab the cookie Jimbo abandoned, but his mother won't let her. When the plane lands in Boston, he meets his girlfriend and they exchange, and he begins to feel dizzy. At the pet shop, the owner faints and breaks the aquariums as he falls. He's immediately taken to the hospital, and doctors collect a blood sample. In the laboratory, the test tube breaks and blood splatters all over the scientist's face. Robbie soon hears about an unknown virus in Boston and travels immediately to the hospital. Jimbo and his girlfriend were isolated, and Robbie tries to interrogate them. But at that moment, he dies, and his girlfriend loses it. After that, Robbie gets permission to do an autopsy and is shocked to discover that all his organs are liquefied. As soon as she finishes, she calls Sam to tell him where Jimbo worked and the details of the autopsy. She also shares that all the animal facility workers and hospital staff are being monitored. Unfortunately, Jimbo's girlfriend also died, which means the virus is acting faster. Sam asks her to send some samples to confirm they're dealing with the same thing. At a movie theater in Cedar Creek, a man starts to convulse, and his saliva drips on other people. He feels so sick he has to leave. And as he leaves, he convulses through the entire crowd before passing out. Later, his girlfriend visits him in the hospital, and she ends up getting sick too. Soon, all the people from the theater are flooding the hospital. In the CDC offices, Robbie finishes talking to each passenger on the Boston plane and confirms that no one was infected. Their celebration is interrupted when a fax from Cedar Creek arrives telling about more cases. When Sam hears the news, he goes to William asking for help, but he thinks the CDC can handle it and tells Sam to go to Mexico anyway. He ignores the orders and manipulates the pilots to convince them to send him to Cedar Creek. Meanwhile, William enters the vault to get a mysterious sample. Then he talks with Donald, who explains that the California governor asked the president for federal help. They need to contain the virus before the news reaches the media to avoid another bombing. That night, thousands of military trucks and helicopters surround Cedar Creek to place it under lockdown. The next morning, Robbie arrives with her CDC team and finds all roads and bridges blocked. The CDC is allowed to pass, but reporters are being kept outside. In town, Robbie meets with authorities and discovers that Sam is already there. They both check the isolated room, where all the movie theater patients are, slowly getting worse. A doctor calls them when a new patient arrives with the same symptoms. This patient had a car accident, but had no contact with any of the sick people. So Sam realizes with horror that the virus is airborne. So Robbie and Sam leave the hospital and are surrounded by a crazed crowd demanding an explanation. They run to the CDC laboratory to meet with Consult, who made a comparison between the sample they brought from Africa and the one in town. A slight difference in its code confirms that it evolved to survive longer in the air, so it's spreading like the flu. They look at all the names of infected people and notice that one of them died from the old virus, while another died from the new one. This means the animal host is carrying both types. Robbie reads the files and realizes that one of the dead guys was a pet shop owner, so she'll go there to get all available animals for testing. So Sam goes to see William, who just joined the operation, and wants to arrest him for disobeying orders. He freaks out while explaining that the virus mutated, which finally makes William give in and let him work. Outside the blockade, reporters are allowed to say in front of cameras that there's a new virus, but that it's been contained. Some news teams try to get footage from their helicopters, but the military quickly drives them away. The people in the city are rioting because they want to leave, so the soldiers have to use force to contain them. Two men get in their trucks with their families and start driving through several structures until they manage to leave the city. Then the military chases them. A helicopter blocks them and opens warning fire. However, the men keep driving and one of them even fires back. The soldiers keep firing until one of the trucks explodes, killing everyone inside. Seeing this, the other truck stops and the soldiers arrest the family. At the pet shop, Robbie finds a monkey that stole the banana. However, it can't be the host because it's currently very sick. She takes it to the laboratory and Salt does the tests that indicate this monkey has the original strain. Sam wants to test the animals from Jimbo's workplace. However, the CDC already did that and they're all clean. As hours pass without progress, more and more soldiers, helicopters, and trucks arrive in the city. Then reporters doubt the official containment story. A curfew goes into effect and soldiers patrol the streets to send everyone home. If anyone is found outside, they'll be arrested. In the afternoon, Sam discovers that the latest team of soldiers arrived with several bags of medicine that they administered to the patients. He asks William about it and discovers that the bags contain an experimental antiserum. However, William refuses to say how he got it. Sam accuses him of keeping too many secrets, but their argument is interrupted by one of the first patients dying. So Sam grabs a bag of antiserum and asks Salt to test it on the monkey. Soon, the virus is spreading through the city. Anyone feeling sick should hang a white cloth outside their house so soldiers can pick them up and take them to the hospital. A mother says goodbye to her children before leaving, and the father has to stop the children from touching her. Tests indicate that most of the city is now infected, so there's no more room in the hospital, and the military has to set up tents to isolate patients. In the laboratory, nobody is sleeping enough. He is so sleepy that he almost passes out in front of the microscope and leaves without disconnecting the air tank from his biological protective suit, which causes it to tear. He leaves quickly without saying a word, but Robbie. After going through the decontamination chamber, Casey tells her that he just got a scare. At the White House, Donald tells authorities that the virus will be throughout the country in 48 hours, so they should bomb the city. However, the chief of staff needs several experts to present evidence that bombing is the only choice. Otherwise, the rest of the country will destroy their careers for killing so many people. That night, soldiers pile all the bodies in a cabin and burn them. Meanwhile, The infected monkey finds a house and a young girl to play with. In the laboratory, Sam is shocked to see that the monkey is feeling better. However, the antiserum hasn't worked in humans, which means it only cures the original virus. And the army has been hiding a cure for Motaba all along. Suddenly, Key faints and starts having seizure. The team immediately takes him to a hospital room and uses various methods to calm him down. When Robbie gives an injection, Case has another seizure and causes her to hurt herself with a contaminated needle. Robbie and pulls off her gloves to confirm that the needle pierced her skin. Then she washes her hands. Sam comes to help her, but she freaks out, blaming herself for not stopping Case before. Sam shakes her to calm her down and promises he'll cure her. After that, he confronts William, who admits that they knew about Motaba all along, but never found the original host. William's speech about being a good soldier makes Sam realize that they've been hiding everything because the army wants the perfect biological weapon and the city might be bombed. So William confirms that the president already approved the plan for tonight. On the way back, Sam gets a call from Salt that has new information. The guard at Jimbo's workplace finally spoke and mentioned a missing animal, but he didn't know what kind. The files show a shipment that arrived from Africa, so they need to find out what was in that shipment. When Donald finds out that Sam has been snooping, he orders his men to arrest him. Meanwhile, Sam tells Robbie to return soon, and if she doesn't show any symptoms, she should leave because they're going to bomb the city. Salt sees soldiers coming after Sam and warns him immediately. Then they change into their normal uniforms and escape through the back door. They tell a pilot that his superior is looking for him to get him out. Then the pair gets into a helicopter and flees. After hearing the news, Donald tells his men to find Sam and shoot him as soon as they see him, ignoring William's protests. In the laboratory, Robbie feels sick. She decides to go check on how Case is doing and holds his hand, since he doesn't have much time left. With the help of the Coast Guard, Salt and Sam find the ship that transported the host. There's no place to land, so Salt flies the helicopter close enough, and Sam makes a very risky jump. As soon as he tells the crew that he's an army doctor, they show him the body of the dead hunter. Sam searches the man's belongings and finds a photo of the infected monkey. Meanwhile, news shows photos of Sam and Salt, saying they're wanted fugitives. At that moment, the pair invades the studio and interrupts the broadcast to show the photo of the monkey, asking everyone in the country to call if they've seen it. A mother immediately recognizes the monkey her daughter was playing with and calls the CDC. When Sam and Salt get in the helicopter, police open fire on them in vain. Sam gets a call from the studio with the address to find the monkey, so they go there. The call is intercepted by the army, so Donald heads out too. Meanwhile, William prepares the plane for bombing. At the house, the young girl explains that the monkey is in the forest and only comes out for her. Sam says he wants the creature, so she gets some food and calls the monkey which comes out of the forest. With a carefully shot dart, Salt puts it to sleep. Then he calls William to tell him he has the host. So William immediately suspends the bombing. When the pair takes off, they're surrounded by 2 helicopters. Sam tells Donald they have the host, but he doesn't care and makes his men chase them. Salt displays his piloting skills and flies under the bridge. However, one of the helicopters manages to copy his moves and keeps chasing them while opening fire. So Salt flies high in the sky to make a 180 degrees turn. And now he's behind the other helicopter. By forcing it in a particular direction, the enemy helicopters almost collide with each other. While they make some quick moves to avoid the collision, Salt and Sam fly away safely. They also shoot some missiles at the ground to make it look like they crashed. So their enemies are forced to stop and check. Minutes later, they arrive at Cedar Creek and Salt starts to work on a cure using the monkey's blood. Sam checks on how Robbie is, who also doesn't have much time left. He decides to remove his helmet and makes her face to face, in case that's their goodbye. As soon as Salt finishes the serum, he injects it into Robbie. When Donald arrives, he orders his soldiers to bomb the city while ignoring William's concerns again. Sam realizes that Robbie is improving, but his celebration is interrupted by Salt, who says the plane is arriving. The pair runs to get back to their helicopter, and Sam uses the radio to tell the pilots that he has the cure. The pilots don't respond, so he scolds them for following orders instead of doing the right thing. He also reveals that his superiors knew about the virus all along. William picks up the radio and pretends to scold Sam while giving him a tip. If he stays in the plane's way, the pilots can't bomb the city. Salt flies the helicopter toward the plane to block it, and the pilots hear both Sam and Donald give them opposing orders. At the last second, the plane turns around to avoid a collision. Though some is surprise, the pilots drop the bomb in the ocean instead, so the explosion only kills some fish. At the base, William removes Donald from command for withholding information from the president and orders his arrest. Donald points out that this will destroy him too, and William is okay with that. A few hours later, everyone in the city is feeling better. Sam reunites with Robbie, now healthy, and they start discussing a possible reconciliation.